You're all set.
We're live?
Yes.
Okay, it's a regular scheduled meeting of the Finance Committee. It is 6:10 on Monday, August 19th. Council Trimble, Committee Chair. We also have Council Dean, Council Fournier. Council Leonard is here, Council Yakaraka. We also have Council Hawes and Council Pelletier. And we're gonna start with bids.
Our first bid tonight, is for the airport. It is a request to waive the bid process for passenger boarding bridge and baggage handling, system maintenance. Historically, the airport has used in-house personnel to troubleshoot and do maintenance to both of those systems. But recent failures of the systems and, staffing issues, it's made clear that it's more than what our in-house staff could and can maintain to keep it operational for the number of flights that we have coming in and the passengers. So the airport, they have used external companies before. And the results were not satisfactory. It was not, none of the external companies that we've used in the past have provided service that we feel that is the type of service we need in order to maintain the system and keep it up and running. So the request is to contract with a company that the Portland Jetport uses. And they are on site in Portland, Vanderland. They have a 24-hour operation down at the Jetport. They can be here within 48 hours on site for any emergency type stuff. And the contract will call for annual reviews and maintenance to come up and check the system and do everything. They're a local company. We're looking to award a 3-year contract to them. The first year contract would be $48,000. Of course, this was not part of the original 25 budget, but the airport did budget, assuming that in-house personnel would continue to do the work. So we can divert the costs out of that piece of the operational budget and apply it to this contract. So there's funding is available. It's just a shifting of that money to keep those systems up and running. So our recommendation is and looking for approval to contract with Vanderland for a 3-year contract to do the preventative maintenance on our boarding bridges and our baggage handling system.
Any questions on this item? Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Second. And without any objection, this has passage.
Thank you. Our next item is also for the airport, also a request to waive the bid process. This in regards to the new parking lot that's under construction. Once that is completed, we will need a revenue control system in place for the ticketing and exiting of the people utilizing that lot. The recommendation to waive the bid process is so that we can buy the same equipment that we have at all of the other lots at the airport, which is the Cincinnati Time Recorder Main system. They won the bid in 2009, which put the equipment into the other lots. We want to make sure that everything is the same. It's easier to swap parts or maintenance issues. So the request is to waive the bid process contract and purchase items directly with Cincinnati Time Recorder for $154,182. So our recommendation is to move forward with that.
Make a motion.
Second.
Second, I have a question, not specific on this, but on the project. Are we on schedule on that? Is it ready to, are we shooting for,
On schedule,
we're
right?
looking at
Yes.
November or something?
Yeah, hopefully by Thanksgiving, if
Yeah,
if we don't run into any problems and it's on schedule to do that.
and I think we may have discussed this when we bid that, but is that gonna eliminate the need for the overflow lot when this is in
No.
place? We're still gonna have the overflow lot for
Right.
some events?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was even with the overflow,
Yeah.
we didn't have enough parking,
Right.
so this is
Okay.
to hopefully handle us for a while, but it's always nice to be getting bigger.
All right, this, without any objection, this has,
Thank you. Our next item, the next two are related. I put them separately on the agenda. It's for de-icing fluid for the airport. We did go out to bid for de-icing fluid for both type 1 and type 4. And we received 2 bids back. However, the low bidder was not what they bid on was not up to the specs of what we asked for. So essentially they were non-responsive. Inland Technologies was the other bidder, but they only bid on the type 1. So our first recommendation is to award the bid for type 1 de-icing fluid to Inland Technologies International as the only bidder that was acceptable for the specifications that were asked for. And that bid is roughly for 60,000 gallons at about $8.50 a gallon. So it would be roughly around 510,000 for year 1. That is less than what we had been paying. We paid $13 a gallon last year, so it was a pretty good drop. Again, this would be a 3-year contract.
Questions on this?
I'll make a motion.
Moved,
Second, yeah.
Any objection? This has approval.
Thank you. So our next item is for the type 4 de-icing fluid, where we did not get a responsive bid. For the type 4, the recommendation is to remain with our current supplier, which is Ascent Aviation Group. We're very happy with them. They have agreed that they will continue to supply us the type 4. So we'd like to just enter into a 3-year contract with them where the bid did not produce any other options. They have produced a price of $7.99 per gallon, which is less than what we paid last year, which was $8.63. We use about 15,000 gallons of that. So that's around 119,850. Again, within and under what the 25 budget has for both of those fluids. So our recommendation is to waive the bid process, contract with Ascent Aviation Group for type 4 de-icing fluid.
Motion or question?
I make a motion.
Second.
Move a second, a technical question for you, Dave. Is type 1 and type 4 depending on what the temperature is outside? What's the difference? between
One is used to remove ice from a plane. Another one is a
Oh, just
de-icer
de-icer.
to keep it from icing up.
Gotcha.
So it depends on what the
Okay.
situation is
All
called.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Jose, who did that at staff meeting today.
See, he was ready.
So it acted like I knew what I was talking about.
Very good. Well, made. It's approved.
Our next item is for our rock salt. Never too early to get that. We did go out to bid, the city of Brewer, we joined with them to do a bid process. They actually did the process themselves, so the bid tab in your packet looks different because it's their bid tab. We received 4 responses. The low bidder was New England Salt Company, which was $66.45 per ton. The city of Bangor uses we range depending on the season, but we could use up to 8,000 tons. The bid that was put out was looking for a little over 10,000, where we were the majority of it. But the bids range from 66 to 92. 66.45 is about a 12% reduction from what we paid for rock salt last year. So the recommendation is to go with the low bidder, New England Salt Company, for 66.45 a ton for our rock salt. And this will go to full council next week because over the course of the contract, we're looking at approximately $500,000 of, depending on if we have a bad one.
I make a motion.
Second.
Second, and any objection? This has approval.
Thank you. And our next item for bids is for the Silver Road Sewer Separation Project. We did go out to bid. We got 8 bids back for that project. They range from 104,410 to 289,900. This was a project that was part of our 25 capital budget. We have 120,000 total between sewer and stormwater to pay for the project. The recommendation is to go with Eastwood Contractors from Brewer. They were the low bidder at 104,410. All of our past experience with Eastwood has been excellent. So the recommendation is to go with the low bidder, Eastwood, for 104,410.
Questions or motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
Without any objection, this has approval.
Thank you. Our next item, we're out of bids now, is an order. This is for approval for the city to apply for up to $50,000 for the Maine Bureau of Highway Safety Grant. This would be used for impaired driving enforcement. This would be on next council's on the consent agenda next week if approved tonight. But the money would be used for overtime, traveling and training of our drug recognition program with our police officers.
Make a motion.
And there is no local match.
Second.
Okay, if there's no questions or objections, this item has approval.
The next item, this was discussed, pre-council last week. It was also on for first reading last week. This is the $2.4 million bond order for the public safety training facility. It was referred back to committee for approval. It'll be on with approval tonight. It'll be on for final reading next week, along with a second order that would authorize it to go on to the ballot in November for voter referendum. So we're looking for approval tonight to, put that on next week's agenda for final approval and then move on to voter referendum.
I think it might be fine. Any questions on this? Seemed like there was some, it came up, is everybody got them answered? Everything, is there okay?
I
There's
don't
no-
have a question.
There's no questions? Is there a motion on this?
Yeah, I make a
Okay.
motion. I'll second it.
All right, so this will go.
Thank you.
Approval to move forward.
Say next week. The next item is also a bond order that came back to committee after first reading last week. This is the normal bond order as part of the 2025 budget. These are the items within the budget's capital plan that was identified as being paid for or would be paid for by bonds. It's $4,191,000, which is broken up between streets and sidewalks, infrastructure projects, including the Ohio Street Bridge, which was discussed a little earlier, water quality infrastructure improvements, as well as equipment and vehicles, including plow trucks, and building improvements at the Central Fire Station. So these are all approved as part of the 25 budget, looking for committee approval for this to be on next week's agenda for final approval by the council.
Any questions or a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
Without objection, this has approval.
Thank you. So our next item is the final piece of the school revolving renovation loan fund of the $4.1 million. All of it except 1.7 is being deferred. This has gone to committee and the council for approval before. This is the final piece of for approval from the finance committee. It requires your approval for the loan payment schedule, which is attached as part of your packet. The 1.7 million would paid back over 10 years at 0% interest. So what I need is in your packet, there's a sheet that has a motion. I need, if you're amenable to it, we need that motion read out and approved. And if so, I can send the information to our bond attorney and that will close this loan. The money will become available to the school department.
All right, everybody on that page?
Not on the committee.
To page
Which
27.
page? Yes.
It is
Yes.
mostly blank.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution captioned, resolution approving $4,126,902 school revolving renovation fund loan and the details of the city's $1,772,092 2024 SRRF general obligation bond.
The second,
Second.
and without any objection, this has approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So our last thing tonight is our interim quarterly financials. Of course, with 2024 year end, that's in process with the audit. So there's a lot of entries that get made in June. So these are up through May. And as I've done in the other reports, I'll go through and point out various anomalies, certainly any questions that you may have. Hopefully I can answer tonight. We'll start off with the revenues. And again, what we did is we looked at the full budget and then we projected where the budget would be through May and where we are actually through May. And then the difference and how close we are to where we would be at a projected budget. The first line of taxes, that is, we'll always look a bit on the higher side. And that is because when we commit our taxes in July, we also post them. So all of the revenue is posted in July. And it becomes a receivable on our balance sheet, and then we collect the taxes throughout the year. So that doesn't catch up to the original budget until essentially May or June. It will come in a little over budget. The expectation is this year where we've already met 99% with a 1 month to go. And that will primarily be due to excise tax. The excise tax, again, for 24 came in over budget. We had another good year. Again, we talk about it during the budget process. We're always slightly conservative with excise tax. It is one of those that as long as people are continuing to buy new vehicles, it's great. But if there is a downturn and that doesn't happen, we want to be able to make sure that we don't over budget for excise tax on a year that people may not buy the newer vehicles, and then we would be a significant hit on that. But that trend has continued to go up, so we'll continue to factor that in. Licenses and permits, that is pretty good. It's over budget again. As we talked about in the last quarter, that is primarily due to building permits and vitrular licenses. Building permits, there was through May of last year, there were 1,147 total building permits. Of that, about 34% or 176 were new, and the remaining 971 was on existing buildings for renovations. So about total value of the new construction was about $51 million. So that was, we had a good mix there, but it was, it leaned more toward existing renovations, but that will still put us above budget on building permits. Electrical permits were also above budget. So those have continued, and we've seen that trend for the last 2 years that it's on the rise. The next item is fines, forfeits, and penalties. You can see that is, a couple 100% over the budget. That is primarily related to the vacant property. That wasn't factored into the 2024 budget because it went into place during the middle of the year. That full 29,000, that is the overage right now. The difference between actual and projected is pretty much all the vacant property fees. The revenue from uses and money, again, that's like our interest we earn on our bank account, franchise fees, rentals of the Parks and Rec facility. That's higher than projected due mainly to interest earnings. The intergovernmental, it's a little bit low, but it's in line with where we would be, which is a 92% budget at the end of May. That's a lot of it has to do with timing of when the receipts are received from the state and posted. The charges for services, as bus fares, some of our Parks and Rec programs, Kids Cave, after school, summer camp, those types of things. Those are above projected budgets, as well as ambulance billings were higher than the projected budget. And then the last two items, the transfers in are for our charges to our enterprise funds, the airport, wastewater treatment plant, golf course. And those are for reimbursements of services provided to them by the general fund departments, the finance department, payroll, treasury, and those are on par with where we are. They around 93%, where we'd be at 92. And the last one is other. That represents insurance settlement, sale of assets, and transfers from fund balance. Those transfers don't happen until typically June, which is why that's looking fairly low at the moment. Any questions on the revenue side? Okay, so we'll go on to the expenditures. With that, most departments are pretty close to that 92%, give or take 4 or 5% either way. So I'm going to only bring up and talk about the ones that aren't. Central services is a little off, and that has to do with the timing of how the work that's being done and the timing of when it gets billed. Most of the work is for other departments. There's some inter-account transfer vouchers and invoices that get done. And that's a timing thing that will catch up, over in June. The insurance, which is workers' comp, property insurance, general liability, those expenditures are lower than projected. We have, at least through May, lower workers' comp claims than we've had in the past, which is a good thing. The planning department, the expenditures are a little bit higher than what was budgeted, but that is because of the rental registry, the contractual costs and the advertising costs. So in theory, the expenses are higher, but there's going to be a corresponding revenue on the other side for the rental registry income that's coming in. Health and community services, the expenditures are lower than the budget. And that again has been a recurring thing that we talked about is reduced general assistance costs. Even though we're seeing them increase, they're still it's not fully back to where we used to, go over budget on the GA costs. And the last few down near the bottom are the tax increment financing. Those are made throughout the year as they occur. So where we are now is payments reflected to date. The transfers are money that is being transferred over to the capital fund. Those typically happen at the beginning of the year, which is why it's nearly at 100% of the budget. So there probably won't be very few transfers happen in June. So that's essentially done for the year. Same as the other agencies. That's the library, the county tax, the snowmobile club. We typically pay those out on a quarterly basis or as a lump sum if it's small enough. So once we've hit that fourth quarter, that's essentially now met the budget for the year. There'll be very few, if any, changes to that in June. So for the most part, most departments are relatively on par. Expenses are down overall. Through May, we would have projected to be at about 65 million. And we're a little over 62, so we're about 3 million under budget right now, but relatively closer to our normal budgeting process.
Questions? Council Fournier.
Comment, thank you,
You're welcome.
appreciate it, I'm glad, I appreciate the breakdown of
Mhm.
building permits and. that's-
Yes, I went back and watched and so I didn't get that back to him after the first one, so I'm gonna be ready this time.
Thanks, Bill.
Any other questions? Okay. The final item on the agenda, so we
That's all I got.
adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.